Hi, everybody. Well, I just got finished watching an interview of Zbigniew Brzenzski on Morning Joe, MSNBC, I guess it is. It's online. I'm going to put a link down below. And he said some pretty interesting stuff. One of the things he said was, uh, how in the last 20 years, the credibility of the United States and the West has deteriorated in the Middle East, and how it would be a tragedy if the United States didn't recognize the forming of a Palestinian state. And he also stressed negotiation. Everybody has to negotiate. He also talked about the global economic situation. He said that basically, you have 1% owning 90%. The rest of us are scrambling for whatever we can get. And he basically said this is a recipe for disaster. And, here in the West, whether it's the United States, Canada, or Europe, or Great Britain, you have a small percentage of people that really live well. And the rest of us haven't had a decent raise since the 1970s. They even play with the inflation figures, core inflation rate, less food and fuel, and so we get a raise based on the core inflation rate instead of the actual inflation rate. And whether it's a pension raise or, your raise at McDonald's or wherever you are, if you want to know how much you're making, all you have to do is divide everything by 10. So if you're making $500 a week, divide it by 10, you're making $50 a week. And when I started working in the early 1970s, that's what I was making, $50 a week. So I'm no better off now than I was in 1970. And this is for all of us. He also talked about populism and how in the Middle East we've gone from dictatorships to democracy to populism. And in dealing with populism, it's pretty difficult to negotiate with populism, because what happens is that a populist movement, you end up with, I don't know, the American Revolution was a populist movement. Everybody was involved. There was no compromise. At some point, it could only go one way. Well, I recommend this, looking at this and listening to him. He expresses all these things much better than I do. I really do wish that I had the gift of gab like some of these people do. I wish I was that smart. A lot of times I've considered Brzezinski. I had a lot of nasty things to say about him, and I don't think he's a saint. But anybody in a position like he is, um, what he's talking about is true leadership. It's Churchillian leadership. I have a lot of respect for Winston Churchill, because he basically, if you listen to his speeches, and I'm not talking about the rah speeches, fight him on the beaches and oceans and landing ground speeches, but I'm talking about the speeches like the full speech after Dunkirk, where he said, look, this is a serious situation, people. We have to do this in order to achieve this. If not, we're going to end up losing this. And Churchill was a leader in many ways. He brought in unemployment, believe it or not, unemployment insurance, and many other reforms. He actually cared about people, and he even wanted to bring in property tax in England, which they don't have, to tap off some of the taxes that the extreme wealthy in England have, but that never passed. Um, they called him a traitor and everything like that. But Brzenzski, if you look at this interview, he will have. He said basically, look, we need some leadership here, and we need some dialogue, and we've got to do better for the people. Um, will that change anything? Will his speech change anything? No, I don't know. But to have somebody of his stature come out and say, hey, look, we've got a problem, and we better do something about it. And he makes a statement about the Republican candidates, which to me sound like a bunch of clowns. Other than Ron Paul makes a lot of sense, but then the only problem I have with Ron Paul is it's not clear to me, but if the United States withdraws from the world, as Ron Paul suggests, or as it appears to suggest, I don't know if it's true or not, but or I don't know if he's explained himself well on it. I mean, that could be a recipe for disaster too, because there's a lot of countries out there just waiting for the West and the powers that be to pull back to a degree. I mean, if they pull back, my God, I mean, you know, you've got so many unstable leaders. It's just amazing. But anyway, the main reason for this video was to get people to look at this Brzenzski interview. It wasn't bad, I have to say. Anyway, I'll be putting more stuff up.